This is the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 2 verse 11. Lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. Shalom, shalom. Before I begin this lesson, I want to give all praise, honor, and the glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Brachah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that rule well, and peace and blessings be multiplied on all you brethren, pushing this word in all sincerity and in truth. To the hopeful elect out there, the 144,000, and the rest of the great multitude of men, women, and children that will receive mercy from the Lord in these last days. Shalom. I'm the brother Dama Agabar here with another lesson, Lord willing to edify through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. All right, and this is scripture that we bring out all the time, dealing with, Satan, which means the adversary, which Satan today is the so-called white man, Esau, Edom, who comes in the spirit and the vibration and the coming of Satan, which is to be an adversary against everything that is righteous, everything that is biblically sound, everything that the Creator stands for in righteousness. This man is against. All right, and he is constantly, using the tools of the devil, which is deception, lies, manipulation, gradualism, lies, everything in his power, ultimately to, deceive everybody, and to ultimately, especially in these last days, to be tricked and duped into, accepting his new world order, and ultimately leading this world towards the mark of the beast, which is the implantable micro C-hip. And I'm going to show you this video, which is going to be a great example of the devices of Satan's, or the trickery, or the methodia of the damn devil. How he's going to gradually and deceptively, lure everybody into this MOTB system. And he's about to make it very apparent that, surveillance underneath the skin, that there's no need for privacy. Everybody needs to have a digital ID. Everybody needs to be tracked and traced and monitored. That you're, that you having, the freedom to just roam around and do whatever you want. It needs to be tracked and traced and monitored. All right. And he's going to make these things happen to where he's going to make it seem as if, there's nothing wrong with being tracked and traced and constantly followed. That every single bit of your life needs to be, upon the digital grid, so that it can be monitored, it can be traced, so that you can be safe. He's going to present it as peace and safety, but really it's so that he can control every aspect of your life, so that he can dictate, the type of information you can receive, what type of information you can't receive, what's the truth and what's not the truth, and that you being able to just, freely roam around this earth is no longer going to be an option. All right. You're going to have to openly give yourself over into this new digital beast system. And like I said, and this is why he's about to bring a lot of chaos and a lot of fear, a lot of psychological operations, terror attacks, black swan events. He's going to push this atmosphere of terror and fear, and that everybody needs to be identifiable in real time. Everybody needs to be tracked and traced, and everything that you do needs to be on the grid, so that it can be, tracked and traced, and that you can be a responsible citizen. But I'm gonna show you this little 5-minute video of part of the methodia, or the slyness of this damn devil, and it's being based off of well, I'm gonna show you. All right, and this is just, one step. This is how all roads are going to eventually lead to the MOTB. You see, and it says, well, here in this video, it's about 5 minutes. It says GPS tracking and parental control apps are changing how teens grow up. And you see, and this is all part of the gradual step of how they're going to lure everybody into this new world order. You see? And, and this is what you call the internet. This is the internet of things, but eventually it will be the internet of bodies. Eventually your GPS tracking and so-called parental controls, it will be app-based at first, but then it will evolve into being, inside of you. It will be, in the form of the internet of bodies, which if you don't know what that term means, look it up. It's where every single thing about you that's concerning the internet, and you being linked to the internet, you being able to communicate with the internet, will eventually be no longer on your phones or on these applications, but the technology will be inside of you, which, as we know, is going to lead to the MOTB. You see, and this is how they're grooming these younger generations to get used to this type of technology, so that, when it's fully implemented, these younger generations, they'll be totally all for it, because they're already being presented and they're already being, groomed to accept this type of shit. To when it's time for them to really put it inside of them, they'll be all for it. They'll be, already prepped and prepared to deal with this type of technology, man. You see, like it says here in the comment, reminds me of a particular episode of Black Mirror. You're right. You see, because that's what you call predictive programming. And you're going to hear these kids talking. You're going to hear, the certain psychologists and the AI professionals, they're running these tests and they're doing things like this to gauge, how receptive and how better they can be able to manipulate and to, deceive people into becoming more and more comfortable with this type of technology till eventually it'll become the MOTB. So I'm going to play this video, got another precept, and I'm going to close it out, man.
You have a tracker?
Yeah. Do you ever want to just turn it on? I always know where he's at. I can also set up safe zones.
And you see, and they're presenting it as if it's, parental control, but eventually it's going to be governmental control. It's going to surpass, your parents having this type of technology to watch and to, keep track of their kids and know where they're at, which, it is a good thing in this society, to know where your kids are at. But we know the nefarious and the end goal of all of this shit, where it's truly heading. Like I said, it's going to lead to the MOTB. All right. And for the powers that be to have complete surveillance and complete control over every aspect of your life. This is just a gradual step in how they're preparing the public for, the coup d'etat, if I'm saying that word right. All right.
There seems to be a new danger lurking around the corner all the time.
I always thought I'm not controlling. But then you find actually, maybe I am.
It's nice to know that someone's watching me, so I'm safe.
It's a big societal experiment, and we don't know how it'll turn out.
You see, it's a huge societal experiment, because why? They know exactly what they're doing. They know what they want the ultimate end game of all of this to be, which is the MOTB, the Internet of Bodies, for the powers that be to have complete and total control and access to track and trace every single aspect of every person's life on this planet, man. From the amount of food that you eat, to how much water you drink, to how much energy you consume, how much you travel. They eventually have the technology to know what's going on inside of your thoughts. What are you thinking? If you're lying, if you're nervous, what's going on the inside of you is the ultimate end game. So she's right. It is a social experiment, because we know the ultimate end game of what these devils are trying to ultimately do. And a lot of these people are willingly participating in these things, but like I said, they're presented as salvation, as for you to be safe, as a way for you to track and monitor your children, to keep them safe. But really, it's all a scheme and all a plot, man.
Where have you guys been? Oh, we went to the skate park with some mates, and we're just heading home now.
So do your parents know where you've been?
Yeah, my dad tracks me on Find My Phone on Apple.
Yeah, my mum knows where I'm going and where I've been. There is this whole market of parental control apps.
The dynamics, the relationship between parents and children, and especially as children grow into adolescence, has really changed. 20 years ago, parents let their kids out. They had no way to know what was going on for kids, so they kind of had to trust their children.
And you see, it made me think of that right now. Remember, this all started with, what was the first thing to have microchips implanted into them as a way of tracking them? Was your animals and were your pets. Well, now they've totally gone out of that stage, and now it's going, to where you're going to be the new beast. You're going to be the new animals that's going to be tracked and traced by these global elites, So first it's starting by them allowing your parents to have this type of, tracking and, apps to make sure you're knowing where you're going. And then when it gets to the point, when it's time for the government to issue it, the parents are going to be like, well, I've always tracked you. If I've always known where you're going, this is going to be safer for you, because now the government's going to be doing it. Think how safe you can be. Imagine if there's an emergency, and they're going to have the commercials in the future. You have an emergency, you fall and slip and bump your head, and you don't have any physical identification on you. How would anybody knows where you're at? How can anybody know where you are? Well, we'll have this shit inside of your body to where, You can be found, or your kids can be traced and be tracked and be found if any type of situation happens. So it's just, they're grooming these people for the the MOTB.
So, Jamie, have you been tracking Will when he's been out and about?
Well, I have been actually.
What about you, Maggie?
Yes, I do track Shalomi. I guess they want to know where I am, and that's understandable. I don't really mind it.
It's nice to know that someone's watching me, so I'm safe.
Very broadly speaking, young people seemed to be or tended to be more accepting of location tracking. There was less of that understanding for parental control apps that constrain digital behaviors, stopping young people from using certain apps, accessing certain websites, and just potentially shutting down access after a certain length.
See that? You see exactly what this shit is doing? And it's exactly the power that these elites want to ultimately have over everybody. The ability to stop you from accessing particular things if your behavior isn't up to par. Or if you're, if you're bucking up against the New World Order, if you're not being an ideal citizen, if your social credit score dips below a certain percentage, they'll be able to restrict you from doing particular things. So you can see how this social experiment is playing out, and how this is just all a test. It's all, how they're preparing everybody for this new beast system, man. Let's go back a little bit.
Time or at certain hours, ending for
That someone's watching me, so I'm safe.
Very broadly speaking, young people seemed to be or tended to be more accepting of location.
See, look, she's a professor of artificial intelligence and society, man. You see?
Tracking. There was less of that understanding for parental control apps that constrain digital behaviors, stopping young people from using certain apps, accessing certain websites, and just potentially shutting down access after a certain length of time or at certain hour in the evening. I got some examples where young people felt misunderstood, or that the parents didn't have a full understanding of the effect this parental control app was having on those children's social life, their ability even to do homework sometimes, and so on.
I get 3 hours per day. I feel like that's kind of little.
If he ever puts a guideline in and he says, don't go on this website, or if it's Instagram and I want to go on Instagram, there will always be a way around.
I think they've all had double accounts. I follow one account and, it all looks nice family pictures. And then I find out there's another account.
If a creative...
You see, but in the New World Order, that type of access won't exist, man. All right, because you're not going to be able to have multiple accounts or to be on the internet, without them being able to know. They will know everything. They will know, each time you log on the internet, they'll know exactly who it is in real time and who's accessing it and what you're trying to look at, and it can be restricted. And it's all going to be regulated in any goddamn way. So you can see, how these devils are moving, man, and what they're trying to accomplish.
Young person is able to circumvent those rules and find their own way and conceal what they're doing from parents. Those young people are actually less safe than they would be if the parent hadn't set those restrictions at all.
As a parent, I might see a scary headline about social media and how it's really bad for my children. So I'm going to go and put these controls. It could also have this effect of preventing me from having actually a conversation with my child and hear my young person's point of view.
What we see is, especially in adolescence, the more
and you see, and that's what the powers are going to be. That's what they're going to do when it's time for you to when this shit is established. When you go on to try to read about news or what's going on in the world, you're only going to have access to what the powers that be want you to access. It's not going to be no alternative media site. It's not going to be some secret website that you can go on to, and find out what's really going on, because they're going to have all of those sites shut down. You won't have access. You'll only be privy to the knowledge and information that they want and the propaganda they want you to have. You see, and this is what all of these parental controls and guidelines are all doing, but it's going to be at a higher level, eventually.
counterproductive parents are, the more likely young people are to rebel or react to their parents. The result is that the parents' behavior is counterproductive.
Young people do want to be safe and well, but they also really want to be independent when, they are emerging adults. That's where this tension becomes the highest. And parental control apps don't have any way of supporting children's learning and autonomous choices.
Sometimes you feel like when you give them too much, they don't know when to stop. And then if you're constantly just wanting to control, when will they ever grow up and make decisions for themselves?
Hey, you see, but see, when this shit is implemented with the power of the elite, all behaviors are going to be controlled because, like I said, either you're going to obey or you're going to be shut off. Either you're going to do what they want you to do, you're going to accept the information that they want you to believe. If they tell you 2 + 2 is 8, hey, you're going to have to believe 2 + 2 is 8. Otherwise, they'll have the ability to shut you out, to restrict you, to ban you from traveling, to lock you in jail, to punish you severely, to like I said, drop your credit score. Restrict you from buying or selling or going to the grocery store or having whatever it is that you might be. So your behaviors are all going to be controlled. You're not going to have the ability to rebel or to buck up. Now you can, but at what consequence it's going to come at. You being totally separated or put to death or, starved out or totally rejected from this society. They could blackball you, to where if your credit score gets so low that anybody seen to be around you or talking to you can be instantly affected if the powers that be see that you're talking to this person, this lowly rated citizen, that you could be punished for even, walking in the same vicinity of them. Hey, people's behaviors are going to be controlled. You'll be fucking, what do they call it? You'll be a leper of society, until you see the light and get back in, get your mind right,
In psychology, we talk a lot about self-regulation in adolescence. And ideally what we want is both to keep young people safe, but also to teach them how to do that by helping them to learn to regulate their own behaviors.
Yeah, you see? They're going to force regulate you in the future, man. All right? Everything is already going to be in order. And anytime that you buck up, man, they're not going to have you self-regulate. They're going to regulate you, man. Like I said, by restricting you from particular, daily necessities or worse.
Make their own smart decisions.
Yesterday it was gaming was bad, but today we're all concerned about social media. It will be very difficult to develop a rule book that will anticipate the next technological development very precisely and give us all the advice and the best choices we can make.
Listen to your young person, understand what their relationship with technology is, how they use it, how they would like to, what their concerns are.
Maybe as you get older, they could just chill a bit on it, and if you build that trust, then it will make it easier to kind of let go of that when they reach an older age.
I think 16 is a good age. I think 14 you should be able to be tracked by your parents, and the parents should have the decision. But 16 and above, I think you can make that decision by yourself.
But it's not going to happen that way. In the New World Order, you're not going to be able to regulate yourself. You're not going to have any privacy. You're not going to have any, every single thing that you do is going to be monitored and tracked and watched very closely by artificial intelligence. And they're going to be dinging you and keeping you in check, man. But like I said, hey, like I said, we're not ignorant to Satan devices, man. We see the gradual and the nefarious nature in this technology, and ultimately, what it's going to eventually be used for. Like I said, this is just them getting these younger generations groomed and prepped and, already used to being, controlled and tracked and traced and all of this shit, so that when they bring in this MOTB, it'll be so much more of a smoother transition for, these younger generations and those that are already being prepped for this, this beast system that is vastly approaching,
If we can teach kids how to make smart decisions online when they're young, when they're teenagers, if we build those open and trusting communications and relationships between parents and young people, it helps young people to make those smart decisions about their tech use for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. All right. Because like I said, we all know where this is going. All right, and this is Revelation chapter 13, verse 16. And he calls of all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark, that charagma in their right hand or in their foreheads. You see, and this is what all this gradualism, all this technology, this GPS tracking, the internet of things, the internet of bodies, all of this wearables, all of this, technology to where all of your biometrics are constantly being monitored, how many steps you take. You got these smart Apple watches. This shit is all just gradual steps into the final, the final form of it, which would be the implantable charagma, man. You see? It says to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, say he that hath the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that have the understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. You see, and we have that wisdom. We have the wisdom not to be, ignorant of Satan's devices. We know how this devil was moving with all these little, little situations and technologies that they're creating, and videos like this. What they're ultimately trying to achieve, and the deception and the false. The false form of protection, and the benevolence of how useful and how innocent this technology is. But we know eventually what the real end game is, man. So we can't be ignorant. Hey, we see what these devils are doing, and like I said, they're going to use a lot of chaos, a lot of fear, a lot of situations to further push people into this road that leads to the MOTB, and they're going to start making it to where people are going to start to feel that them being tracked and traced and monitored by the powers that be, by the government, is going to be just a normal part of life. When they let all hell break loose, when they let these migrants go crazy, all these foreigners come into this country who haven't been vetted, who are not citizens, you don't know who's who. They're going to have the boogeyman, the fear of the boogeyman out here, to where once they start presenting that, look, we need everybody to identify themselves. If you want to be a citizen, a recognizable citizen of this country, you're going to have to get your digital ID. You're going to have your digital wallet. And eventually you're going to have that charagma inside of you if you want to receive your universal basic income, your CBDCs, your new form of ID will be in this form. And if you don't take it, then you can find yourself as the enemy of the state. You can be ostracized from society, or even rounded up and thrown in a concentration camp until you see the light. So, hey, man, we see where these things are going. We're not ignorant. And, hey, we're not going to be deceived by this, Lord willing, man. And so with that, Lord willing, this was edifying. All praise, honor, and glory goes to Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai, for putting the spirit in me to do this lesson. And to the next one, shalom.